Before we start the podcast, I really want to thank our sponsors, 16 co-working spaces located in Marsa. They have really good facilities, amazing snacks, water, showers, desks, double monitor setups, anything you can think of. Really good location. And also they gave us 15% discount for whoever's watching the podcast or listening to the podcast. You can see the code here, which is 16CW16 Charlie Whiskey. I'll put it in the description as well, so you can check out their website. But they have really good prices. With a discount, it's even better. And I'm really glad to be partnering up with them because the podcast got so much better when we joined the forces. And now we move to the podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming, for making me coffee, because I didn't know how to run the
Thank you for the invite. And yeah, coffee is kind of like my thing now. You know, it's like...
And
it's good.
Listen, so I normally start with a person briefly introducing themselves. I didn't give you a heads up to think about it, but you have some sort of short bio that you could share, sure. You know, so people know who I'm talking to. Because a few times I was like this close to forgetting, you know, so I try to now focus, like we start on the introduction, short introduction, and then we'll talk.
Checklist, you know, I was like, okay, so if he's introduced himself, let me get to the other shit, because this part sucks.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, Mitchell Camilleri, I'm Maltese, 25.
What? You're Maltese?
Yeah. You're not Malti.
This podcast is about expats, man. No, I'm joking.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
No. To be fair, I've lived in the UK twice. Okay, so I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes me kind of
anymore,
like
of
10% expat or something. I currently work as a freelancer. I'm a photographer, looking to delve more into the world of marketing and videography. And yeah, I'm just trying to wing it through life, I guess.
Yeah.
That's me. I like gym. I like cars. I like drinking. I like food.
And other stuff that you do till 2 a.m. Anyway, yeah, man. So I actually, obviously, we met through shooting a wedding.
Yeah.
Which is very fortunate. I'm really glad that happened. And I noticed your kind of business mind. You know, like you're very entrepreneur. Man, this word. I get it. You know what I mean. So you're like very business minded, and you're very focused, which I like. You know, like there's not a lot of people, I think, as focused as you, and who invest in yourself, you know, even about like recent purchases that you told me about, courses, etc. Like you try to develop yourself, but and I was gonna start with, like, if you could share, obviously, maybe a bit of your upbringing, and maybe was there things that led to where you are today, you know, photography, interest in marketing. I know you were in iGaming as well.
Yeah.
Which obviously helped you to progress to photography, etc., right?
Yeah. Each part of my life has somehow played into this point. Kind of sounds like a philosophy there, but I think it's true. So essentially my upbringing, So I come from a very particular upbringing. You know, not to say that I've had it like the worst compared to everyone, but you know, like I didn't really have like the support that kids ideally get and stuff like that. Some things were going on around me that nowadays that I'm older, I realized like, that was a bit shady, you know? And nothing really ever like pushed me into like being good at school or finding a craft or whatever. It's always just felt like surviving, right? And you know, so no one ever kind of like saw in a sense of potential and we're like, oh, let's push him into photography or whatever. It's totally on my own accord. So when I was, I think 12 or 13, something like that, we had already lived once in the UK. And
Like with the whole family?
it was me, my brother, and my mom.
Okay. So
My
you
dad
moved
wasn't
there.
in the picture at the time.
Uh-huh.
Disclaimer, he really would have wanted to. And I'll get to that in a bit. And, you know, the first time we came back, it was a case of homesickness. My brother really didn't settle into the UK. I was 8 the first time we were there. So it was, you know, it's kind of like, it was easy to steer me into settling in.
Yeah.
Had finally made some friends in English school and whatever. And we came back, you know, and the second time we were going to leave, it was the time where camera phones were a thing. You know, it was like flip phones.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and the first smartphones started coming out, like HTC and
GPRS.
yeah. It's like 2G, and you're
Yeah.
downloading songs, and you're paying 56 cents.
Yeah. Like
You know?
when the MP3s came to phones, right?
At the time, I had the Nokia Express Music, which
Oh, the one with the buttons on the sides.
yeah, so I was the cool kid, you know.
White and red.
Yeah.
I think I had one which slides like that.
Because it had a keyboard at the bottom, so it's like, and then you had the stylus. It's like, bro, the stylus back then, you were something.
But I remember Sony Ericsson was the shit at the time, right? Like they were the best for music, because my friend had the one that twists like that.
Yeah.
Bro, like it was like having an iPhone 14 right now.
It's like it's insane how that tech, you know, it's like it developed, and it was a hand me down from my mom. So my mom was, you know, like, service providers here, you get a 2-year agreement, here's a free phone to tie you into the 2-year agreement, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. So it was a hand me down. And before we left, for some reason, 2 weeks before we left, there was a car show in Tafra Ben in Aura. And I just rocked up and started taking photos.
With the phone.
And, you know, I always had a passion for cars. My dad is insane. He loves cars so much. And he used to work on them when he was younger. He used to collect, I don't know if you remember them, Red Line magazines. But they were all about car modifications, interviewing people who had nice cars. We used to play on PlayStation, like Need for Speed, Midnight Club, so that didn't help, you know.
Yeah, Need for Speed. I spent so much time on Most Wanted. You know, I don't know which one.
I think
that was like 3rd or 4th game in the series.
Great storyline. It's like
Most Wanted, man. That final jump, you remember when you actually finished the game? I was literally like I was playing and my brother was next to me, and I remember I was crying literally when I made it through, because I tried before and I didn't accelerate enough and I didn't jump through. You know.
Yeah.
Bro, it was so frustrating, and it's the only time in my life where playing a video game I cried because of joy, you know, or sadness, whatever. But it was like,
yeah. It's Most Wanted was something else.
Yeah.
My mom, when I think before she had my older brother, used to race and rally, you know. So we grew up, you know, cars are something nice.
She used to race.
She actually won.
She was a driver.
She was a driver. It's like someone needed a driver, and she was a driver.
That's very strange for a woman.
Yeah.
I would
especially
say.
At the time. Especially at the time, you know.
This is, we're talking like 90.
This is my brother's 94, 1993, 1994. Because then she stopped because she found out that she was having my brother, and you know, you can't race rally.
Yeah.
While having a baby.
I mean, you have a roll cage, so like you're fine.
By Maltese standards, you know, it's like roll cages probably aren't a thing now. So
just add extra support.
Yeah, just some pillows, bro. It's like fuck it, you know. And so you know, I was always into cars, and there was like a Ford F-150s, like old Corvettes from 1959, and that was, you know, I took no insane photos. It was just like I was just a kid, just running around, click. And then like 3 days before we left, I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna miss this. I'm from St. Paul's Bay, and that's as weird as and a bit, you know, how do I say? It's not, I won't say dangerous, but like kind of like St. Paul's Bay isn't the best place to live. Let's put it like that. Okay. Know? Like, I'm not saying it's bad to the extent where it's like stay away, but you know, it's like there are some questionable things. And I was just walking through one of the main streets, and I, you know, in hindsight, I think this would count to a certain extent as like street photo. And I took a wide picture of the petrol station. There's like next petrol stations. There's one here. If you're going towards like direction to Mosta, a car coming towards me, and no cars, and someone seated on the bus stop. You know, and it was night. You know, there was a lot of light, like the kind of, and you know, the cameras back then weren't the greatest. No. So it's kind of like today we're trying to recreate this nostalgic, drop your clarity down to -100 kind of look, and it was just there baked into the phone. Go to the UK, make a few friends. I'm always the guy with the camera phone. We come back, and my friends, you know, parkour was a thing, and you know, I was again the guy with the camera phone, so like taking videos. By then, camera phones started to become more affordable, but I was always the guy that. I was very obese as well, so I couldn't do a parkour. Like I used to weigh like over 150 kilos, you know. So
really,
yeah.
Wow, that's a lot, man.
That's why I went to the gym this morning.
And you were 13?
At this time, I was 14. Yeah.
Okay.
So then, you know, I always liked a good photo and stuff, but my thing was more at the time was more DJing. So I grew up on a nice, gentle mix of music. My dad was really into house music. My mom was more into reggae, 80s, 90s. Even my dad, mind you, like
but there was
the 80s
music
and 90s.
at the house all the time, basically.
My brother started playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and he used to just...
And it had the radio station.
And had the radio stations blasting easy, you know, like the Tupac, Snoop Dogg, like the rock channels, you know.
And there were like techno music as well.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, so I grew up on a nice mix. At 11 and 12, so this is before the UK. At 11 and 12, I learned a lot of songs by Eminem by heart, which kind of helped me deal with my stammer. I had a stammer. You know, talking wasn't really my forte. And, you know, at the time I used to learn Without Me, There Is Some Shade, and My Name Is. And they're all different speeds. My Name Is the slowest. Without Me, compared to those two, is the fastest. And that helped me like deal with my stammer. So music to me, and even with things that were going on in the background, I started to find my own styles, learning of like new artists from friends at school. I found Green Day, I found Papa Roach at the time as well.
So you went from rap to...
I was on rap and rock.
Okay.
And somewhere in between, I discovered house as well. So I always had an appreciation for various types of music. And some people saw potential in me to kind of like be a DJ, because I was like, I'd like to DJ, but I didn't know like what CDJs were. Nothing, you know. I started to develop my own interests when I was 16 then. So like this is me starting to discover like my creative and starting to delve into. It's a bit long, but all the steps make sense. So
yeah.
You know?
No, but it's interesting, like, because when you want to DJ and you don't have any equipment
and you know, like, nothing,
and what's the next step? And at the time there's not even like resources on YouTube, I guess, like just to have a look how it's done.
It had just started. Like YouTube at the time was starting to blow up. Like people were starting to discover like posting tutorials and like you know, like recording their mixes with I don't know,
the time when even Casey Neistat wasn't a thing. You know,
like
he was just starting,
It's like,
and now he's like a legend of YouTube.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And you know, I was talking. So the story with my dad is he tried hard to be in our life. Things have happened that couldn't. They weren't in his power. They were in other people's power. And you know, I had. Unfortunately, it would have been a very on and off relationship. Not an off in the sense that, you know, we fight or he does something to me. Off in the sense that
he's there and
sometimes he's there and sometimes he's not. And again, you know, now that I'm older, I understand that it was completely out of his power, to the extent of like Maltese laws and all that stuff. A big injustice. I mean, you know, like I adore my dad.
Do you think it changed the laws from then?
No.
Not really.
I mean,
so there's still kids growing up in kind of similar situation than.
I mean, it's just they're very geared towards the mother here, you know, and you know, like I've heard stories where fathers have done some stupid shit, nasty things where they've ignored the children. You know, like fair enough. Like if he's ignoring the kids,
But that's not the law. That's his choice. You know, it's
and
not the law.
But then I've seen moms that, you know, like I've grew up in this environment that weren't. So maybe it may be their best, but it's not in the best interest of the child, and the court just because he needs a mum, and no, the kid needs a bloody parent.
It's like from my point, since I have now a 1-year-old, I just understand that you're gonna make mistakes, you know, like and what you realize when you have your child, that you cannot judge your parents. They did the best they could. Whatever they did at the time, probably it seemed the best choice for them.
And I completely agree with that, you know? Because it's you know, as you grow older and you start learning stuff in life, you start maturing. And in my case, I found philosophy at some point down the line, and it helped me a lot, like deal and understand.
It helps you to put like your thoughts into shelves.
Yes. You know? Yeah. And at the time I was talking to my dad, and my dad, you know, he loves a good party. You know, it's like David Guetta is God in his world, and I love David Guetta as well. It's like he has a track, "The World Is Mine," and whenever me and my dad hear it, we just vibe. You know?
Did you go when Guetta was here?
No.
Summer Days, I think, festival.
No, that wasn't last year. It was the year before.
Yeah, but he was the headliner. Maybe 2 years ago.
I wanted to. I didn't have the right people around me to go, and money was a big issue, and I had to get a certain kind of ticket.
But Summer Days was free.
No, but we needed to get like VIPs for shade and stuff like that. Like the people I had one particular person around me that couldn't be in crowds.
Okay.
And you know, like it's I wouldn't blame it on that person. It's just more of a financial point. I couldn't.
But you're gonna see him live.
Oh, definitely. I'd love to. Like, and now he's picking up again as a DJ. You know, so like the day he announces like I love MTV or something. I know nothing, by the way.
the thing is, like, I think about David Guetta in general. There's a lot of hate, you know, for some reason.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, he's a legend. Like
he is.
Without him, house music wouldn't be where it is right now. You know, obviously you can say, oh, EDM, and it fucked up the whole house culture, you know. But if you like the underground, the groovy house, you go to certain festivals. If you like what Guetta plays, you go to where he plays, right?
Exactly. And
I'd love to go to like Ultra Miami, you know. Jesus Christ,
bro, that would be so cool. That would be so cool. Like
I've watched after movie of 2019, I think. Because it's a piece of art. That video, it's a piece of art. The way it's edited, the way the music is edited, all the headliners they had, it like blows my mind, man.
Yeah.
More than Tomorrowland, probably.
I think Ultra Miami are more focused on. I'm not saying Tomorrowland isn't, but
no, it's good as well. But
it's Tomorrowland has become very commercialized compared to Ultra Miami, in my opinion. You know. But, you know, and my dad, I was talking to my dad once because I had a few experiences with my dad. At 11 and 12, he used to take me with him to work, you know, just to learn some stuff about life. I started working at, essentially, you could say, 11 because I used to go with my dad. But
he worked with cars?
No, he then, at the time, had his own business doing tiles.
Oh, okay, tile laying.
So my dad isn't a mechanic because of politics when he was younger. There was... you needed to go up to certain people in power in order to get your certificate, even though you deserved of it. And my grandfather wouldn't have any of that.
Oh, okay.
He's like, no, I'm not going to kiss anyone's ass just for something that you should be entitled to. And, you know, in hindsight, it has taught my dad, and of course, now that I'm older and I understand better, myself a lesson, but maybe, you know, my dad's career could have been a bit different. Who knows? My dad at the time worked in tiles, so he used to take me, you know, he taught me how to do the cement. He taught me like the brunt of the job. And he was always like, look, this is a good job, but if you can achieve something from school, go and achieve something from school.
Because it's physical labor, you know. First of all, it's hard on your body.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are, you're still on your knees most of the time, you know, if you're doing floor, etc. But yeah, I agree. My mother always says it's good to know a trade, you know, like that's her philosophy was always like that with me and my brother. Know a trade and then go do school things, university, whatever, but have the plan B.
Yeah.
Let's say know how to weld or know how to do plumbing, you know, like very basic skill. But, and to be honest, these days, bro, like plumbers, they make like 3-4 grand easy. If you're a good plumber, you have like a backlog of work for like a year, you know?
Yeah.
And then you spend 4 years at university and you graduate and you go like, and what I'm supposed to do right now,
and now you're
know?
stuck with this 1.6k a month job where after you pay your taxes, you're living 1.3, and then the Maltese landscape.
Exactly.
It's not so.
Exactly.
It's not good enough.
So I feel in general, physical labor is a bit underestimated these days, you know, and you can do it smart. You don't need to be the let's say lowest level worker. Like if you're smart, you learn the skill, you hire people, you expand your business, you know, there's options.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I'm all for to you know, people getting a skill and then doing whatever they want, you know.
You know, I think as humans we're capable of learning a lot of things, and then you just like hammer down and master a trade. I think if you don't do that in your life, you're kind of like doing a disservice to yourself. Yeah. But I think it's good to know like a whole host of different things.
If I had time, I would do woodwork course or something, because I loved it at school, man. You know, I don't know how you call that machine that rotates the wood piece, and you go like
I know what you're talking about. I don't know its name,
but I used to almost like get into this meditative state, you know, when you carve it's normally like a candle holder or something, right? But the way like you shape the wood, it was so satisfying to me, and I was pretty good at it. Like my teacher used to take the pieces that I made, because the whole like it was only boys doing woodwork. Okay. So let's say we were 10, and a lot of times he would take my piece and show to everyone as an example of how it should be done, you know. So I had some sort of talent, let's say, in that.
It's an art form in itself, though. Mm-hmm. I think it's an art form in itself. You know, and I think it takes a certain level of, I wouldn't say creativity per se, but it's kind of like you need to have something in you that is able to recognize one that looks good and the curves and
it's different. You either go to the art direction in that, or you go to functional, like building furniture or you know, custom furniture, etc. Like I love the live edge desks, for example. You know, like if I had time and skill, I would love to do something like that for myself, like build like a live edge desk, you know, for a house, or like a coffee table. And at the end of the day, to be honest, you can sell those things. They go for like hundreds of euros, sometimes thousands. Money. And when you kind of know how they're made, it's not that hard, you know? Like it just takes time, obviously, and the skill and like finishing it, blah, blah, blah. But it's an amazing thing to know, I think. And woodwork would be something to go to. Would you go like with cars?
I'd love to learn. Like I do know a bit, but if I had to pick one, I think it would be cars. It's like just knowing how to fix your car is this is like basics, because I know how to do maybe an oil change.
Really?
Maybe.
Just unscrew the
I know.
bolt under.
That ties in with all the experiences I've had when I was young, because I wanted to study to be a mechanic, and at the time when I was 14, you know, I really like cars, and my mom was like, you know, if you rock up to the house full of oil, you know, you're not gonna get through the door. And that's it. I was like, you know, it's like at 14, I was like,
but that's trial and error. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know? So like from the practical standpoint, I probably did more on cars than you actually, because the most complex thing I did on a car was changing the brake pads and the caliper. That's the name, right? The mechanism that presses. So I changed the caliper and the brake pads on Audi A4
Oh, okay.
that I used to own.
Never. I've seen the process. I've helped someone in the process of doing that, but myself, no. What I've done when I was 18, I had a Hyundai Accent, and the interior was a bit beat. And my dad had one that he had unfortunately crashed a week before I was supposed to take it off him. And I just spent 2 days
On purpose. I'm not gonna give it to you.
It's like if I'm not gonna die, this car is gonna die before me, And it was just parked with the front destroyed, and I just grabbed my dad's tools, and I was like, okay, so what can I take off this car that looks nice onto mine? And I changed almost the entire interior of the car. It's like the dashboard,
panels,
the seats, the carpentry, everything. I stripped the car down, 2 cars down in a field in Manjar, and without no direction whatsoever, I just did this thing. But
Yeah.
it's not something I don't see myself doing that on a daily.
I remember as a teenager, I used to have a few friends who, like, you could tell at the time that they're gonna be into cars, because they didn't go play football or basketball with us. They would stay in their garage, like with some old car, and just be in there.
Yeah.
That was their free time. So you could see some kids, they had already like chosen direction without even knowing it, probably.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing when you think about it. It's like engines and how they work and how they tie all together. It's like.
And when you become that level where you can build a custom build, right? That's I think when you get the most satisfaction, because then you're free. You can improvise.
Yeah.
Okay, I take this part and this part, I get more torque, or
Yeah.
It's like Lego.
I see that from my friends. My friends, like, I have a circle that are pretty much into cars, and
So probably Jake Bellizzi.
yeah. Jake,
they did this thing,
Rota.
Rota, with what's his name? Andrea.
with Andrea,
Camilleri.
Jake and Andrea, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm shooting wedding with them.
Okay. So, but they do like is it like a TV show?
It's I'm not sure. I
About
don't think
cars?
it's on TV, but they have a very big social following, and they're almost involved in everything that happens around cars. It's like, and because what they do is they add stories to it. They give it substance rather than just like, oh, that's a nice Corvette. Click photos, video. Make
like
it look
kind
nice.
of short documentary almost.
Yeah. They I believe they teamed up with the Gentleman's Distinguished Ride or something. I forgot the name.
But this is bikes, no?
Yeah. They do cars, they do bikes. No, don't. If you ask Andrea about a bike, he'll tell you some stuff.
Okay.
He owns both.
So they're like petrol heads in general.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't really look into it that much, but I know that Jake and Andrea they do it, and Malta is perfect, man. Like, there's so many vintage cars here. Like, I've never seen so many vintage cars, especially on Sundays when everyone goes for the joyride.
Yeah.
But some models that I've seen, I was like, okay, like in the mainland Europe, a lot of people would pay crazy money for that car, and it's just like in some small garage here,
Yes, we do have a few gems.
I think generally in Europe, like people who are into cars, they're not really aware of Malta as a kind of like museum of vintage cars, really. That there's so many, and maybe there's a purchase option in Malta. I don't know if it's on the radar.
I'm not sure, but when I was younger, my mom used to drive the yellow buses. I don't know. When you
2017, so I came when there were new buses already introduced. So I didn't see the ones with the rope and the bell. I heard about that.
My mom used to drive those.
Really?
She was like, I think, one of 2 female drivers on the island. Yeah.
I was so excited when they introduced this electric, vintage but electric bus. But
looks nice.
But I haven't seen it on the road yet.
Not. It will take, knowing how this island works, it's going to take long. But my mom used to drive those, and we used to see a lot of photographers like just shooting these buses, because most of them would have, like, they were in the UK, back in the day, and suddenly here they're just everywhere, and they're like you know, I mean, bearing in mind the fact that they had no ACs wasn't good for this island, you know, and like the way that they were run, there was someone who would really take care of his bus, and others that would really neglect it and try to, you know, maximize money they make off it, you know. Yeah, and that was, Malta was known, like they had a lot of tourists just coming here for these buses, you know,
because the design is very specific. You know?
Yeah, and the colors became iconic. Like they have, I don't know what it's called in English, but bare feel. So on the edges around the wheel and around the grill,
and
you had kind of like
a lot of them are hand painted.
Yeah. That's bare feel, and it's a very particular style of, you know, like doing this look on the bus, and that's the kind of like where you're combining like the origin of the buses to Maltese things.
Yeah.
And
wow.
it
So
was
your mom
definitely
used to drive it.
Yeah, she used to drive buses, lorries. Like
I see why your parents met.
Yeah,
You know, because I mean, cars.
my dad's driven lorries abroad. I think they're both amazing drivers, but I slightly believe my dad is a better driver. He's just so chill. It's like he's driving a 60 foot lorry, and he's just like tight street. You know,
I mean,
it's like,
experience. Why would you get nervous?
it's like he could do it with his eyes closed. You know, it's like I was like, once I was with him when I was younger,
Bro,
and I was like,
when you're that high and that heavy, whatever you smash into, you don't care. You just go, man. You know, that's why he's relaxed.
what's that stuck under the wheel? Is that a car? Are those people screaming? No, it's just the birds flying by.
Yeah, but when you think about it, like for example, where I'm from in Lithuania, there's a lot of trucks, you know, going back and forth, like on the big roads, you know, and there's sometimes accidents where like wild animal would get smashed,
Yeah.
and the truck driver never gets injured or dies because they're just up there, you know, and the animal just goes under or just sticks to the front. I don't know. And we have big animals. We have oh my god, my English moose. Yes, moose. Like it can be like close to a ton, you know, like to 1,000 kilos. So like imagine smashing into that big of an animal. Yeah.
Wow.
Not all of them. That's
But
maybe
still,
an extreme
like,
size.
it's still
but
a- still a big-
500-600 kilos for sure. You know.
That's big and heavy.
They're big, yeah. Imagine if you're like just in a regular car and smash
Fiat
into
or
something like that. Yeah. And the thing is, like, normally we had accidents where they fall through the windshield into the car, and that's how people die, not because of the crash, but because the animal literally crushes you, you know. And imagine the car speed, his weight, and the impact that you get. It's like crazy. And that happens in winter a lot of times because they migrate, you know.
I'm kind of glad we don't have big animals here. But
Yeah, the biggest you have what, like a rabbit, probably. There's a lot of hedgehog.
the
signs,
hedgehogs, rabbits. I'm not sure.
but that's the biggest.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest.
Someone saw, I think, a deer somewhere in the woodlands near
Could be.
Near Melilla.
But usually, like
somewhere
they're like horses and deers and stuff like that. They're probably owned by someone. Like I don't think you can see a wild horse here. It's probably a horse that ran away or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so wow.
Yeah, your mom was driving the buses. Yeah. And,
you know, I think Malta became really recognized for being kind of like a hub. Not so much with the cars now, because kind of like these things dipped, of course, when the buses left. But there's still quite a few people that appreciate the car culture here. It's like and shows abroad kind of like promoted and stuff. And yeah, when my mom used to drive buses, that was a cool time in my life, because I used to hang out a lot with her. I would skip school
on the bus for free.
Yeah, just sit on the bus next to my mom, like do her tickets. Like she'd go down, smoke a cigarette, coffee, and I'd be like, "Ma, can I punch the tickets?" And it was something big, because I'd be like, and I give them change. And, you know, it's a 9-year-old kid. It's like, oh, say hello. That's cute.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, oh, I'm helping mom. You know. So, yeah. And
everyone wins.
When we moved back to the UK the second time, I kind of started to enjoy school a bit more. I was never interested. I was always good, but I'd never do homework. Like I'd never study, and I still pass. You know, I don't know how. Like, I don't really remember paying attention to lessons because I was always the kid that would get kicked out of class.
I know. Genius brain. Smart.
Yes, 100. Thank you. Bye. And when we were in the UK, so here in Malta, we have recently introduced ethics as an alternative to religion. I didn't grow up Catholic, so I never participated in religion lessons in Malta. So you would have religion, like literally Catholic lessons. And there they didn't have that because, of course, the UK is very diverse in terms of religions and all that stuff. And they had religious education where we did discuss Catholicism, Orthodox Greeks, Muslims. At the time, Muslims were a bit of a hot topic because terrorism and all that stuff,
But at least you're aware of all the religions.
And that was, I excelled in this class because most of it was thinking and opinions and constructing formulated opinions based on the facts that you have. So the English kids didn't really like me there. It was a very, very poor experience the second time round. We used to live in Derby. And Derby was...
What?
Yeah.
I studied in Derby.
You studied in Derby?
University of Derby.
We used to live in Alveston.
Yeah, I know where Alveston is. I used to live in... I don't remember the area anymore.
There was quite a few. Allington, Alveston, North.
Man, I don't remember the area name anymore. But it was very close. It was not that far off of the city center, as small as it is.
Okay.
But it wasn't that far.
What are the odds?
It was towards if you go to the big hospital of the city. So it was towards that direction.
Of course, that's how like their planned towns are actually planned in the UK.
I think it was Gerrard Street, called Gerrard Street, where I lived. I lived in a few places, obviously. We changed apartments, etc. But wow, okay, that's a coincidence.
That is a coincidence, man. And in that, so I don't know if you. A slight part of me really likes politics, but not in the sense of like parties, in the sense of like politics of just politics, It's like rather than being like I'm a diehard X. I just like the discussion, the ideas behind it and stuff. And when Brexit was happening, I was following it really closely. And Derby was, they voted most in favor of Brexit. So that explains why no one really liked me as a Maltese kid. I was the only Maltese kid in my school.
Wait. So Brexit didn't happen that long ago?
Yeah.
You were in Derby at the time when Brexit was happening?
We had been in Malta for 3 years when Brexit happened. But of course, there was already a certain sentiment towards foreigners. Okay. Like most of my friends were Russian, Latvian, Estonian, Slovakian, Polish. Of course, I speak none of their languages. Their English is quite poor. My English was very good because we kind of like grew up with a lot of English tourists in St. Paul's Bay, and no one could speak Maltese. So it was a bit difficult for me at the time. It was a very long process to get into school. When I got into school, the English kids didn't like me. But in this particular subject, everyone wanted me to join the table because they would be scoring high marks just because, I could read and understand and think, I guess. Okay. I don't know. I mean, doesn't take much.
Are you dissing the UK education system right now?
I mean, look, I was in the best, I was in the best maths class, and here I did my maths O-level 4 times. So standards.
The thing is, I don't really understand the education system in Malta. So I heard this term A-levels, but I don't know how to compare it to my experience in Lithuania, because you have these things like forms here, form 3, 4, 5,
I don't know if they're
6.
still a thing. I believe they've changed into years now. So essentially, when you're 5, you start in year 1, and then 5, and then year 6 when you're 10. So it's like year 2, 6, year 3, year 7, year 4, year 8, year 5, year 9, year 6, year 10.
Okay.
And then at least when I used to go to secondary, we moved on to forms. So it's kind of like Form 1, Year 11, Form 2, Year 12, which is Year 7, Form 1, Year 8, Form 2, Year 9, Form 3, Now they just change it to years. It's easier, I guess.
Add that GIF, with all the formulas flying in the air right now. But because in Lithuania, it's much simpler, man. At 7, Sometimes 6, sometimes 7. You start first grade.
Okay.
And we have 12 grades until you're 18, 19. That's it.
Essentially, Form 5 would be... So hold on. I need to
You're
count
in the
this.
first grade when you're 7.
So
and then you graduate around 18, 19. Depends when you were born.
it would be 11th grade.
Yeah.
When you-
But it's much more complex here. Probably in UK it's something similar to Malta.
No. In the UK it's much simpler. You just go straight up to year 12 and then you go to college. You know.
Yeah. Why complicate things?
Here,
Exactly.
but here it's so when you do year 6, at the time I was one of the last students to do what is junior lyceum here. And essentially junior lyceum dictates which school you go to, which level of education you're capable of achieving, which was, I see why they dropped it, because just because I was poor in primary doesn't mean I'm going to be poor in secondary. And I might find something, because secondary is very different in terms of subjects that will, I'll excel in. And it was also kind of like a stamp of like in the future for your workplace and stuff. And junior lyceum essentially dictated which schools you go to in forms. So first we had junior lyceum. If you'd fail, it would be like parents would go nuts for some reason. I didn't study for my junior lyceum. My mom didn't push me. I used to love riding my bike every day out with my friends and playing the PlayStation. And I got C's and everything, and I made junior lyceum.
Yeah.
And then I went to secondary school. Changed my subject a few times. We bounced back to the UK and all. And I really started to pay attention in Form 4, which would be year 10, when we came back. This was after the UK. I had discovered the subject. It also had some history. So I was like, oh, history seems cool. It's like World War II, World War I, Yugoslavia. We studied all that stuff, right? And when we came back, I changed some subjects. I chose history. And I was just starting to realize that school could actually have, impact on my life. So I did my O-levels. I scraped past them, mostly because I couldn't be asked with studying. I did put in some effort.
But you already had like a direction where you're going?
At this point, I started to develop a big affinity towards history and sociology.
And that's what you chose? Because some people, choose chemistry, biology, etc. Some people choose humanitarian science.
My subjects, because when you go from year 6 into Form 1, you're asked to pick subjects. You need to pick a language, which was Italian, and I've learned more Italian outside of school rather than in school. My teacher hated me. I mean, look, I was the kid that the funny guy, and I do all sorts of crazy things, and I was a nuisance. Like if I'd be teaching nowadays and I had a student like me, I'd know how to deal with me, but I'd be a nuisance off the bat. It's like you wouldn't want me in the class.
You were the problem.
Yeah. Stemming back from my kind of upbringing and the kids I used to hang out with, Bujumba was a very rough place and all that sort of stuff. So from year 6 to Form 1, I chose Italian, home economics, and then at Form 3, you're asked, which is year 9, you're asked to add another subject, and you can change, I think, the language, something like that. I don't remember very well. And I stuck with Italian, and when I came back, we switched home economics with history, and the other additional subject I had was computer studies.
Okay.
I was still, because computer is a good industry. It's like you should study computer,
Did you meet any other Maltese kids, or you were the only one?
In England, I was the only one. This is the education system in Malta. I didn't care about computer studies.
Yeah, I mean in UK, but because I haven't met a Maltese person ever before I came to Malta. Can you imagine, like in UK studying?
Derby is. I wouldn't go to Derby.
It's shady.
It's very
shady.
And the kind of bullying I used to get was insane. It's like there would be groups of 17 kids, British kids, ganging up on me. It's like they had fake guns and they had BB guns with the actual metal balls, and they'd shoot at me just for the simple reason that I was Maltese. I'm not English. I'm not one of them. And the only few kids.
I know that gangs are like generally an issue in UK.
They'd follow you home.
You're lucky that it was the fake guns,
Yeah, but
Because I heard stories, not in Derby, but some Lithuanians, that studied in London, bro. Like some areas, some streets, you wouldn't go when it's dark. After like certain hour, you wouldn't go there.
I saw that in Croydon. When I was 19, we went for a holiday and we rented an Airbnb in Croydon. And one particular day, I was like, you know what? I need to go for a walk. We went for a bit of a jog, and I started jogging in a park because you know it's a park. Yeah. And the darker it got, the more groups I started seeing. And then some of them were starting to trickle onto the path where I'm jogging, and I was like,
yeah,
I've heard way too many stories. I'm just gonna go head back home.
And it's not the gun, like you can get stabbed. Stabbing is very, very popular, if you can say that, in UK, you know. It's teenagers with knives, it's like everywhere.
I saw that when I was 8, when we used to live there the first time. It's like my brother had a friend who got in an argument, and the next day we were walking to school. It was myself, my brother, and this guy. And he had a grey hoodie, and in his hoodie he gets a knife out and he shows it to my brother. He's like, I'm gonna do this today. Like he was planning to actually
stab someone?
Yeah. And I remember like my brother talking him out of it, you know. It was like very vivid. It's like it was a decent blade. Like he could have killed the kid if he actually stabbed him. Jesus. You know? And that is so.
And your brother was the oldest, obviously older than
he was a year older than this kid.
So same brain.
And he's older than me by 3.5 years. So, and I was 8, you know, so like.
And for you to see something like that.
I don't think it really impacted me.
Like you didn't understand at the time.
I didn't understand, and I think at that age, a lot of things that were going around me in my life
were cool, you know, I guess.
It's just, now that I'm older, I understand how bad things were. But at that time, things just didn't impact me at all, you know, it's
but
like.
Imagine the fucking cruelty. Like in your head, like what's happening in that kid's head, you know. I understand it's the environment that forms you like that.
It's, I think
maybe the parents, you know, are off as well. But bro, to stab someone
and to like wake up and have a plan and be like,
never ever had in my life.
At like 12, 11,
a thought like that,
bro.
You know, to get that angry at someone that you would want to stab them. I don't know. I never had that thought ever.
I don't know,
but it's UK. Like I'm
at
not,
the time
I'm not
we
really
used to live in
surprised.
Coventry, so Coventry is also a bit wacky.
Actually, a few days ago, I just saw an article randomly on Facebook. I think someone shared that in Nottingham, which is quite close to Derby, a 12-year-old killed like 55-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Just like came to her door, she opened, pushed her inside, and stabbed her. I don't know the reason. I didn't read the article, but he's 12, man.
It's this gang mentality that there is.
It was probably a gang thing or something, like a robbery, you know. I heard there's and some gangs have this initiation thing where you have to stab someone to become a gang member.
So the first two nights we were in the UK, the second time, before we actually moved to Derby, we were staying in Nottingham for a week. And on the first night, we heard gunshots, you know. And I remember my brother asking my mom, "It's like, where the hell have you brought us?" You know, the second night, there was cops on our street because of a stabbing. And in the morning, I think I may have come across some of the kids that may have been involved, because I was walking out. I mean, you know, I'm Maltese. I'm in Nottingham. I'm 14, 13, 14. I have no idea, you know. And this kid just rocks up to me in a hoodie, like in around like six. There was a total of 6, and one of them comes to me, and he kind of like fist pounds me and is like, "Safe." And I didn't know what safe was. I didn't say it back. I just fist pounded him and just carried on to my day.
It's like, hey, kind of thing, yeah.
And you know, when I started to go to school, I started understanding and all that. But maybe, I don't know, maybe this gang was testing who I am or what I don't know. Like, I'm not very much into gang culture.
It's probably like, are you friendly kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's like, safe blood, you know, something like that.
Blood,
blood.
It's a deja vu, man, hearing those words. I used to hear them in Derby a lot as well, especially from the, how do you call them? There's a name for
the natives.
Chavs.
Chavs.
That's the way they speak. You know?
Yeah. There's, and that really shaped me. It was a very difficult experience.
Toughened you up, I guess.
It did. You know, so like combine that with growing up in a very particular household, And also, growing up in Bujubba, I've had my fair share of arguments. Like I was always the big kid compared to, like, not only was I fat, but I you could tell that I was a certain strong.
I don't know how you're that normal after all this experience.
Oh, trust me, it gets worse, brother. It gets much worse. Like, life really happened to me between 17 and 24. You know, it's like, and it's like, there's a volume. It's like, like when movies, it's like, bzzz, and you're turning the volume up, and it's like, bzzz, that kind of hurts. It's okay, fuck, it's like 10 hits when I was like 23, 24, and it tied into a lot into me having this business mindset. So to fast track, we got back from the UK. We're living in Meliha and all that stuff, and I'm making new friends, and I'm still this DJ. Like, I want to become a DJ. I started getting opportunities. My dad at the time, I was like, look, I want to learn how to DJ. There's like DJ Ruby, and Ruby is a legend. It's like, there's Ruby, there's Tanisha.
Even now he's constantly
of course, he's Ruby, bro.
Touring.
It's Ruby.
He's a lot in India, I think.
Yeah, India, Argentina, South America, stuff like that. There's him, there's Tanisha, there's Junior B. I think Junior B.
I don't know if it's true. You know the guy in Valletta on the guitar?
That's his dad.
That's Ruby's dad.
That is his dad.
Yeah, I heard, but I'm not 100% sure. But you can confirm, yeah?
Because the first time, so I had spent the summer working, I think when I was 15, 16, I was working in bars and a beach boy. And I spent the entire summer working, and I just spent it all on this course with Ruby. And I go in, and I'm taking in so many styles to Ruby.
Face to face?
Yeah. Ruby and the guy he used to DJ with taught me how to DJ.
One-on-one, or it's a
one-on-one? One-on-one.
Okay.
Like, I have Ruby here, and I have, his name was Ryan. Ruby and Ryan. And I'm seeing CDJs, and I'm like, I only saw this.
How much was the course?
I think it was something around 300.
Lira or
Euro.
Okay.
But then I needed more money, because after I did that, I wanted to practice. And I bought kind of like this Pioneer. They weren't CDJs, it's a controller, MIDI controller, but it had the same layout of CDJs.
All in one, yeah.
And by 16, I had spent like my entire money on this thing and bought a laptop because I needed a bit of strong, like, summer savings. From, by the way, at 15, you're not supposed to be working those hours. But I always worked my ass off in any job.
So it wasn't the controller that takes USBs. You had to feed the music through the laptop.
That's where I discovered Tractor, Native Instruments, and
Did you try Virtual DJ?
Yeah, I had the first one I've ever used.
Virtual DJ with the mouse, just on the PC.
And it's funny because the first time I used Virtual DJ, I was 13, and I was the guy that actually saw potential in me as a DJ, his name is Riano. He has sadly passed away a few years ago now, but he is a very business-minded, let's make money, kind of vibe, but not money in the sense of greed. He just knows how. And at the time, my mom and her partner used to hang out at a bar called Chaplin's in Bujubba, just under the sunny coast. I think it's still there. But the owners have, of course, changed since he passed and whatever. And I was once just sitting there next to my mom while, because I used to be quite a lot with my mom. Like, even she'd go out for a drink. I'm not talking like binge drinking, just kind of like meeting some friends or whatever. I used to be there. And once there was a bunch of students in this pub, and Rihanna comes out. He's having a cigarette and he's stressed because he's like, he doesn't know what music they like. He doesn't know what he's going to play. And I was just bored. I was, I was like, I can try. And I started opening YouTube tabs, loading the songs up and playing music. And he's like,
So that crowd.
And he's like, thank you. And he actually gave me 20 euros at the end, which was cool.
Which makes sense,
Because I did
from
him
his
a favor.
perspective, because you saved his ass kind of thing.
Yeah, I got my first kiss from one of the students who was 17 at the time. So me being 12, it was like,
so you played really good music.
Yeah. They liked Panic at the Disco. I loved Panic at the Disco. They loved some house music. And it was no mixing whatsoever. It's
just one after another. Yeah.
And then he showed me Virtual DJ. And then I used to kind of like take care of his nights. At this point, I was a bit older. And it was legal to do this.
So this happened before the DJ Ruby
this is
course?
Everything. I was 13.
Okay.
12. I was 12. And so all these small experiences overlapping, and I got a few gigs here and there. I started working some boat parties in the summer when I was 17. So it would be legal for me to be on a boat late and whatever. With one of he's quite a well-known Maltese DJ, Michael. He essentially used to hire me on the boats to DJ, and it was good experience for me. You know, it's like okay, the pay wasn't so great, and I understand now that I'm older why the pay wasn't so great, because I wasn't so good. You know, but I developed my skills because I used to play everything for these guys. You know, it was like house, R&B, and
it's hard for people who don't know. It's hard to mix genres. You know,
It's
different tempo, different structure, everything.
And then I was studying at this point I would have already passed my O levels and have gone into post-secondary, and in higher secondary. So photography here is still not a thing. I can appreciate a photo, but
photography ended with the phone camera.
Yeah, that's
at that time.
Nothing. Okay. You know. I went to higher secondary, and those 2 years have really helped shaped what was the 17-year-old going on to 19, because it was 2 years. And then as my A levels, on the very sole opinion and basis and advice of my social studies teacher, because I really like social studies, I picked sociology and philosophy as my A levels, and I had other subjects and whatever. And sociology taught me a lot about people, because substantially sociology is like the scientific study of people,
how society works, basically. Yeah.
And philosophy it's philosophy. I learned about Friedrich Nietzsche. I learned about Epicurus, Jean-Paul Sartre, the logic behind it, Wittgenstein, and the theories of language, ethics, existentialism. It's like all this good stuff, you know. So I walked in 17, and I failed my first year midterm exams. So what was happening in the background? Things at home were very tough. And I was the person who always did everything at the house. Like, I would take the dogs out in the morning, clean up after them. Like, this is 5 a.m. Make myself breakfast. At this point, I was already on a diet and started losing weight. So, you know, it's like meal prep. After all this is done, like, I go get my bus, go to school, come back, train, clean again, cook for myself and my mom, do the clothes, head to the gym, and if there's time in the day, I practice my DJing. And you know, it's like, I once asked my mom, I was like, you know, this is really hard. I failed my exams and everything, and you know, things weren't so well at home, and I ended up moving in with my dad
of the environment.
Moving in with my dad. So this is what I mean. It's also like about surviving.
Yeah.
You know.
Just before I forget, how did you become conscious about the weight thing, that you need to do something? Because at that age, normally, unless someone tells you, you're not in that state of life where you go like, okay, I need to make a decision. You know.
I was always very obese, but I wasn't that extreme. Like at 11, I weighed 120. But I still had a very big frame. So like, okay, you could see I was fat, but I wasn't like morbidly obese. We went to the UK, and in the first 2 months, before I made any friends, before I knew how to navigate myself through the streets of Derby, before I went to school and everything, I spent 2 months locked up in a guest house because we still had struggled to find accommodation. And my mom would leave me £10 a day to go around the corner and buy stuff to eat. So it's 2 months, a 14-year-old kid alone in a guest house, which is very dirty and whatever. And I loved pasta. And I just ate pasta morning, afternoon, and evening.
Which is carbs.
And I gained an insane amount of weight, you know?
Yeah, carbs, if you don't move, they go to fat.
And when I came back, when we came back to Malta and moved to Bujubba, I rocked up and all my friends saw me. It was like, what the fuck happened in 6 months, you know? It's like, and you know, when I would cycle on my bike, it would just feel difficult, you know. And in Bujubba, what there was an Olympic Wrestling Association, and not only did he teach Olympic wrestling and self-defense, because you know Bujubba, he also kind of like had created a community, and I started, you know, going back, and I can't even grapple, I can't jog, I can't do a warm-up.
Because you get out of breath,
you know?
Or...
And just without a diet, I dropped like 30 kilos when I started going. And then I was like, people used to bully me because I'm fat. And then one fine day I looked in the mirror and I was like, no, this has to go.
Yeah.
And I spent between 16 and 19 dieting, and I went from 157 to 85.
157.
Yeah.
So that's the max?
That's
that's
the estimation, because I got on a scales that limited at 120, and the wheel kept going to another 35 something. So like these were like, we're trying to calculate on this scales. Like even if I were to buy new scales, it's like the maximum weight of them was at the time was 140 something. So we were scared to buy new scales.
Wow.
Because we don't really know what extreme I am. And when like circa 157 kilos, I was definitely more than 150.
Did you or like your parents got concerned about like the heart health?
My mom a bit, but I don't think my dad would have ever let me.
You ever did some tests, like how your heart is behaving, functioning, etc.?
I did them when I was 19, for the simple reason that I started. So I have sleep apnea. And I'm not sure you know what that is. So
I heard the term. I'm not
it's kind
sure.
of like, I'm not gonna get into the science of it, but like essentially,
when you stop breathing when you're sleeping.
And I've had it for a long time, and that came from the weight.
Yeah.
You know, and growing up in Bujuba, I used to smoke a little because it's cool. At the time, I had Palmar Orange, you know. It's like I remember at one point I smoked a pack in a day and I threw up. But, you know, it's like,
back a day.
We need to look cool, you know. And then when I was 19, I had already lost the weight. I was fit as fuck. You know, I was starting to get a little ripped, some muscles packing on. And
what about excess skin?
I do have a bit, but it's fixable because...
but like surgery fixable or it
my
would
tummy,
shrink?
my tummy, I mean, it's not bad. I'm not saying like,
I've seen extremes, so
I won't take it's not like I'm not going to take my shirt off at the beach. But if I really wanted to achieve like a six-pack look or whatever, I would need surgery. But other than that, I'm pretty decent looking. Like it's not like super flabby.
And it shrinks. So
it shrinks. You can do fat freezing, and I train a lot to make sure like I'm doing everything I can. There's creams that's introduce elasticity back into the skin. Because at this point I lost weight and I gained it and I lost it, and this ties in.
So it's like stretching, shrinking,
like
shrinking.
This is the fourth time I'm losing weight, and this time I'm gonna stick. It's gonna stick. I'm not gonna get fat again.
I can't compare obviously to your experience, but I think it's just a matter of habit. You know,
it's
habit and conscious decision every day.
It was a case for me. It was a case of money and comfort eating. So nobody could really understand like why I love eating so much. And again, in hindsight, I was a kid and I didn't know how to articulate my feelings. No one was really there to listen. It always seemed like things just brush off whatever happens, you know. And you know, judging by how I used to act, like if I had a kid that used to act like I used to act, I'd be put him to the side, like, listen, let's have a conversation, you know. But I didn't have anyone to do that with. So sometimes I used to find food. Yeah,
sometimes eating, I guess it's more like almost like the way to deal with stress, you know.
I'm an avoidant, and it's more visible. It used to be more visible in my 20s, but growing up, I was of course unaware that I'm an avoidant and all that stuff. So I'm failing my exams. I'm telling my mom, is like, look, like I can't keep carrying the entire weight of the house myself. You know, it's like I need, like, at least after school, I need some time to study because I failed. And, you know, if you fail, you're going to repeat or you drop out or whatever. And so we ended up not living under the same roof. And I moved in with my dad.
But she was in a difficult situation in her life where
she was in a difficult situation in her life.
She couldn't keep up the house things,
right? But she was also, not acting very motherly. You know, it's like, and I moved in with my dad, and my dad, I mean, again, he was there sporadically in my life, and you know, it's like I'm starting to get to know my dad, and I'm walking into the house and I'm finding meals that are cooked. It's like for whatever reason, my mom never cooked.
Maybe just didn't have the skill.
She does know how to cook. It's more so that she would be working and all that. And his partner once, I'll never forget it, man. I walked in after gym, and it's like there's the smell of food all over. Like the house was very small. Like he actually didn't have space to house me, but he still did. And it's like they're eating, and I'm so used to just whipping something up myself. It's like there was a plate for me, and I didn't realize, and as soon as I'm like preparing, it's like she's a short English from Portsmouth, but has grown up in Zaytoun woman. So she's savage, but she has a heart of gold, and off the bat she treated me like a son. Like the moment I walked in through the door, her name is Simone. She's amazing, honestly, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Because she saw you,
and I'm like, I'm cooking. It's like this is like day 4 that I'm living with my dad. So I'm like, I've never lived with my dad. I never really spent so much time with him, so I'm not sure how things go. And she's like, no, and she points towards my plate.
Just sit down and eat.
And it had like 6 giant meatballs packed with cheese, garlic, onion, mint, tomato, and salad on the side. And my dad was always very health aware. He really didn't agree with my mom about the way things were being done with me, like in terms of like how obese I was and whatever. At this point, I had already lost like a fuck ton of weight. And I'm devouring these meatballs. And it's like, wow, I found it. Like, it took me like 17 years to find my first homemade. And given how healthy they were, I kept losing. Like,
yeah, because it's good food.
And I'm getting my proteins. I'm going to the gym, and after I'm finding meatballs, and I used to destroy their fridge because I've never found food in the fridge. And my dad knew, he understood that. And she understood it as well, so she used to cook like bigger portions just to satiate my needs as not only a kid that's growing and going to the gym, but as like someone who's never had this luxury. Because I don't think people like kids my age, well, at the time, kids my age, I'm not a kid anymore. People really realize what a luxury it is to have parents cater for you and care for you. And I didn't have that.
We take it for granted, most of the kids, right?
And so I'm walking and I'm finding meals. I'm finding like if it's not meatballs, I'm finding healthy pasta. I'm finding salads. I'm finding omelets with spinach. And, I used to whip up my own because they would work a lot as well. But in the sense, like, if I know she's gonna be home, it's like I know I'm gonna eat.
Yeah.
So
this is so weird for me to listen to.
How so?
I don't think I ever met a person who didn't have that as a kid, Maybe I met, we never got to that part, Maybe I know some people like that, but it's very, now it makes me think about how I took everything for granted as a kid, that it's just there,
But if you have it,
there are people who didn't have that.
But if you have it, it's like it's. And there was a point in my life where I was very angry at people who used to have this stuff, and I'm gonna mention why.
It's not jealousy.
It's not jealousy. It's like,
why the fuck I'm here in that situation, right? And you're not.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
It's yeah. And then at one point, my kind of, so I'm working on both parties. My dad is seeing me DJ. He's kind of like happy to see me going in a good direction. I'm studying, exercising. There was a kind of like a point where my life was
in order, let's say.
All right. I passed my exams.
And obviously your dad sees you having a passion for something and you going to that direction. So he's happy, of course, because you're happy.
At the time, it was the switch from the yellow buses. No, it was quite a bit after, but then they brought Arriva. Arriva flopped. Arriva didn't flop because they're a bad company. Arriva flopped because this island is weird. in terms of infrastructures. Like, I think they only built it for horses. But anyway.
Arriva was in Derby, I think, as well.
Yeah, Arriva. Yeah, they have good service, like globally, you know. It's like they came here and they flopped, you know. Unfortunately for them. And then they replaced the service, and it still wasn't efficient. I used to live in Imjar. So to get to Sliema, that would either be one bus that leaves from Golden Bay, goes through Imjar, and then takes you to Sliema, or you catch a bus to Mosta, or a bus to Valletta, and then you go to Sliema.
How you are not at the Strawberry Festival today?
Because it was raining, and let me tell you, I know this guy named Carolis. He invited me to do a podcast with him, and
you just choose priorities,
like,
obviously.
It's like I can buy strawberries at a time. So it was like a 2-3 hour trip to get to Sliema, and then the boat parties would finish at 11:30, and I'd have no way of getting home. So at the time, there was this guy who had a minibus, and they'd charge people like €3 just to get on the minibus and drop you off home. And we'd have seated people, and we'd be like 20 people in a minibus that seats 14.
Yeah.
You know, because people are sitting on each other, people are standing, but it's cheap.
The red minibus?
Yeah, one of the red minibuses. Like, I'm not going to name his name or anything,
But
because
there's
that's
so many
highly
guys.
illegal.
There are so many guys. Like, we came from Pachaville maybe a few times with the red.
But this was this one guy
Uh-huh.
that did this.
Okay, he started the whole.
He started this whole
red
thing,
minibuses
like
thing.
no. He started this whole like, my bus seats 14, but I'm gonna have 22 passengers. It's illegal, you know. But it got me home after work, because buses weren't a thing and taxis were expensive. And there was no night bus that actually went to Imjar at the time. It would take me to Mosta, and Imjar to Mosta is a big walk, you know. And my dad can't recall how many times he's come to pick me up because the last bus doesn't come. The last bus isn't existent, you know. He'd be sleeping, and they'd be like, "Dad, you know," it's like, "If you want, I'll walk it." He's like, "No, I'm coming." And midway through the A-levels, my dad found a job in the UK. And he's like, "Look, like, what are you going to do? Like, do you want to join me to the UK?" And at this point, in my head, I've had a decent experience when I was young, but I was a bit too young to remember most of it. And the last experience I had in the UK was crap. It was like, I was like, you know what, like, no, like, I've already done this twice.
Not in Derby, though. No?
He found a job in London.
That's like
another
world.
But I didn't know. I was just totally blocked out of the idea. And I had a girlfriend at the time, you know, and I was studying, and my DJing career was taking off. So he's like, "Okay," he's like, "I'm gonna take it." He's like, "What are you gonna do for accommodation?" And I bounced around a few houses. He meant well for me, you know, and I always made it seem like everything was fine, but I bounced around a few houses, like between 17 and 24. I bounced around at least 12 places. My mom's partner, well, at that time he became an ex-partner. He kept me, and I lived with a few girlfriends at the time, and then I rented a few spaces, and I rented rooms and stuff. While all of this is happening, while I was studying for my A-levels, I see a post by Havana Complex's promoter for Havana 808 that they're looking for R&B DJs. And I'm a house DJ, essentially, you know, and I'm playing commercial. DJ. And I'm playing, bedroom DJ. It's like one of my first mixes ever posted on Mixcloud was like house fresh from the bedroom. I was like 15 at the time, you know.
Yeah, I have a few as well. We need to
exchange
the links, man.
I've actually taken them off Mixcloud and downloaded them.
They're so bad.
Yeah,
so bad.
The first one wasn't.
Mine's so bad.
The first one wasn't horrible, you know, because I had an affinity for like getting the beats together and, you know, actually like mixing, and I learned from Ruby, so it's like I need to get my shit in order. It's like, if I'm gonna post something, I'm repping, you know. And I just create a very basic R&B mix, and I send it over. At this point, I'm still working with Michael. At the time, he used to do XFM. My mixes would get featured on XFM, which was
big.
For me, it was big, huge. You know,
R&B is weird, man. Like, I tried the drum and bass and house. That's it. I never played around with other.
I'm not
styles.
quite sure how to explain how to mix R&B. It just came naturally to me because I mixed it, and this guy brought me into Havana 808. And at the time, when we used to go out clubbing, my friends would dance, and I just look at the two DJs of Havana 808, Psychonics and Supre, and I'd listen to them mix, and It's like, wow, you know, and I'm trying to understand what the hell is going on. And at most occasions I would, but when they actually mixed the songs together, I didn't. So I went from being like, watching these guys play, to being in the booth with one of them, with Psychonics. And he's insane. Like, Super is amazing. He's a fantastic DJ. They both have different skill sets, but Psychonics was something else. You know, it's like even watching him play. And they used to ask me to play from 9 to 11, and then I'd stick around just to watch. And Psychonics taught me a lot. And then I started DJing a bit, like between 12 and 1, to test me, and it eventually led into me becoming a resident. You know? Okay. And Havana 808 was my thing.
Where was Havana 808? Or is it still operating?
Now it's called Club H.
Club H.
You know, Havana. Under it.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, I had my friends who first remembered me in school. It's like they used to call me DJ Fatcher because I had tits, bro. Like I had like legit tits. Like I dated a girl who had no tits, and I had tits. So, you know, it's like that's a solid case.
Brilliant jokes of high school.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like now I get them and I find them funny, but at the time, again, they kind of like slid off me, but they pissed me off in a way as well. And so I'm having kids from, you know, that I went to school with coming to watch me DJ, and I wouldn't say I became a bit of a hot shot, you know, because I didn't like have fame, but people knew me. And I did that for like 4 years. In the meantime, I passed my A-levels while my dad was in the UK. I kept bouncing around and whatever. And 22, I stopped. I stopped in August, which is peak of summer. And what happened was I was working at a telecommunications company during the day and DJing during the night. And it wasn't either healthy for me or my relationship or friendships or whatever.
And I think you fall back a bit on like bad eating behaviors, etc.
Yeah.
Just because you have no time, so it's like fast, you know, all the time.
That's a big problem I'm working on. Like when Frank watches this, if he watches this, he's gonna laugh.
Meal prep.
He teaches me how to eat. It's funny, you know. He watches me eat and he does this to me.
Yeah, but it's a habit and planning your time ahead. Right?
But how can you plan your time ahead if you're doing 12-hour shifts and then spending like 8 hours a night DJing?
Yeah.
Because I didn't DJ for an hour. I used to lead the entire night. I used to warm up the people. I used to get the place going. I used to do the peak hours. And then in the last hours, between 3 and 4, was my time to play my music, which is heavily inspired by Supra's style. And people that were there, like XXXTentacion at the time, Lil Peep, Drake wasn't so mainstream. You know, we used to play like Switchblades. I think it's Lil Peep and someone else. You know, it's like, so it's a solid mix of music, you know. And then at March, I think it was March 2019, I had an accident with my motorcycle.
First of all, I didn't know you have a motorcycle.
I had two.
Okay.
Because at the time in my telecommunications company job, it was a commission-based job, and I was a pretty good salesman. You know, sometimes would top the charts. Sometimes I'd be like second or third. It was like I didn't really give a shit as long as I made my money. So I had gotten myself a motorcycle. You know, at the time I was doing not so bad, and I was like, let's get a motorcycle.
I can afford it. Yeah.
3 months in, a guy U-turns and. It was a whole mess. I didn't get injured per se. I just couldn't walk for 2 days because I couldn't feel my legs, and I had a concussion.
So you like maybe hit the spine?
Yeah. No. It was just I don't know because on day 3 I just jumped out of bed like nothing ever happened, like no bruising.
Or it could be shock. You know, your body kind of shut it down to
like when
relax, and then
when I remember myself like trying to get up off the ground when I was on the floor. I do remember myself like I think if I've never experienced shock, that was shock, you know. And the guy that I crashed into started screaming at me, so that didn't help because he felt like.
So he did the U-turn. And he didn't see you coming.
I didn't see him U-turning because what happened was, so there's a car in front of me. I'm behind the car, and mind you, as a 22-year-old having a CBR 500R. Honda, it doesn't look good on you. But I wasn't speeding because if I was speeding, I would have flown over. I think, so the car I crashed into is in front of this guy. and this guy just swerves, like instant swerve onto the left lane.
Back and
this guy, I can see him kind of like twisting to make the U-turn.
Where you were expecting him to go straight.
And I was doing 70, and there was not enough time for me to brake. I crashed into him. He U-turned. He drove with my bike stuck to his car. Went to buy whatever I had to buy, and he didn't give a shit. He was like
what? So he didn't feel that he was hit by something?
He dragged me with the U-turn, so I don't know. Like at this point, all I remember was the sound of my helmet crashing against the car. I don't necessarily remember like me actually going in, like crashing. What I remember is like the sound, the crackling sound. And then I remember suddenly a woman's coming on to me. It's like she's trying to help me. Like if she remembers me and never sees me again, like, or she happens to see this, is like, thank you. She was a first aider. But what happened was I took off my helmet and I was very disorientated. I can't walk. Sorry, that's kind of feedback.
It's fine.
I couldn't walk. Like I was crawling in the middle of the street of Bummarat. So you know where Bummarat speed camera is going to Mostar. There's the roundabout, and further up. Now they've put concrete barriers. You know, that's where it happened.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And mind you, the law determined that I had 50% of the blame, but they put concrete barriers. Yeah. Multi-system. But anyway, and then I was taken to hospital because like I was a mess, you know. And at the time I had called my girlfriend. I was like, look, I've had an accident. They're taking me to hospital now. She got there before me. And she went a little nuts. She's like, please don't ride a motorcycle again. I still wanted to, but I didn't because then I was a bit scared.
Of course you would be.
Bikes totaled.
Done, like irreparable.
It could have been fixed, but money-wise it wouldn't have made sense.
So I don't understand. This guy who did the U-turn, he drove away.
He drove
with the bike stuck to his car.
So imagine. Car is here. I ride. He makes the U-turn. I crash into the very back of the car,
on the
corner. So I'm stuck to his mudguard and just above his wheel, and he drags me. He makes his U-turn.
And you're still on the bike.
And I'm still stuck. That's why when insurance companies were like, oh, because he could have been speeding. And I'm a very patient man, but then I lost my shit and I was like, look, if I was fucking speeding, I would have flown off the car. I got stuck to the car because I wasn't speeding. It's like, just because I have a CBR 500R doesn't mean you can decide that or like, you know, stereotype me that I was speeding, because I wasn't, you know.
And there's no like CCTVs, nothing around there.
No. Well, they do have cameras, but they don't work. Another Maltese thing. It's like, if there's a big accident here and someone wants to use the cameras in the street to kind of like try and justify, is like, look, like this guy crashed into me for something. Like, no, you can't.
Yeah, they're off.
No, well, these ones, I don't know if they're off, but these ones regulate traffic. But if there's CCTV, it's like, and you like, the laws here are so poor, you know. It's like, especially on the roads, they're trying to upgrade them. They don't know what the hell they're gonna do. They have a problem with traffic.
But it's not the law. It's just like, if the camera is there, just have it working. Like, why would you have the camera not working?
But that's, I think that comes down to, you know, like, if the laws apply to the people, the laws should apply, of course, to like Transport Malta in that case, or whoever takes care of these CCTV, you know. But
it's a different subject.
and I kind of dipped after this accident. Like, I think I experienced like my first ever true depression. My bike was my baby.
Okay.
You know,
but
it wasn't
like, about the bike.
It wasn't about the bike.
It was the experience.
It was the experience, and the relationship was very toxic, and my job had just become toxic as well.
Oh, with a girlfriend, you mean?
Yeah. It like quickly became toxic, you know. And it was this kind of like, I'm stuck in a job I don't really like, because when I dipped, and sales dipped as well.
Of course, because you're not in this best state.
I was suddenly the guy that came in and swept up the entire store in the first month, and then I was like, the best salesman is flopping, you know, no one can really get why. My manager was amazing, but at a point, I think she may have also had some things going on in her life as well that contributed to her not being so understanding, because she's an amazing woman. Like I love her to bits. Like she actually helped a lot of my personal growth. And yeah, so I dipped, and then I eventually left the job, left the relationship, and
this was the telecommunication.
Yeah, and company. As well, like I quit Havana. I just couldn't do it anymore. So, you know, it's like my body. I physically felt like I cannot rock up. Like the toxic girlfriend at the time also had a big role to play, and I understand where she's coming from. And in hindsight, now that I'm a bit older, she was right to ask me to not spend my entire weekends DJing. But the way she went about it wasn't correct.
There's several ways you can communicate that.
Exactly. So you know, I'm a bit like I'm a bit depressed. Like apart from this, it's like things that happened in my life just started catching up to me. You know, when my father came back from the UK, we didn't really have contact. We had an argument, and I, being the hard-headed person I am, you know, didn't look to resolve and whatever. So I have no one. I'm not talking to my mom because my relationship with my mom is so strained.
How did your dad react to the accident?
He wasn't in my life at the time.
Okay.
He came in.
So you didn't even tell him at the time.
He came in a bit later. Like no one knew. Like my mom only found out because at the time my then girlfriend told her. I didn't tell my mom. I've always had a very funny, like after 17, I've always had a very funny relationship with her. So COVID hits, March 2020 here.
That doesn't help with depression as well.
And you know, I was starting to slightly find my feet again, just when COVID hit, and I broke up the toxic relationship. Something happened at where we used to live, where she used to live with her dad, I used to live with them. Something happened that really showed me that now, you know, it's like, I need to get out of here. And although I had a very strained relationship with my mother, she still took me in and, you know, thank you. And it was pretty hard. I was going to buy a place, a deal fell through because I was on a commission basis job. And at the time, the government hadn't announced that they're going to suspend loans. So like the bank charged me a fuckload of money for cancelling my loan. Money's not coming in. And this all just keeps hammering into the depression, you know? And when I got out of the job I had with this company, I was on a contract basis, but I stopped on like, I went and spoke to my manager. I had a different manager at the time, and I was like, look, my mental health is down the drain. And they put me up to a board of professionals, and they saw that I was not, you know.
The company put you?
Yeah, because to get out of the contract, it was either like pay 6 months worth of wages, or, you know, it was like they fire me, or in this case, they needed someone to actually look at me and see that, you know, I'm not doing well. And they did determine that I was not doing well. So I got out of the contract, and I spent like a solid 2 months at home.
And if people just think that you can fake those tests that they give you, you can't.
I mean, you can try and act it out, but
there's systems that they're gonna see that you're faking.
They saw, it was pretty clear. Like I was acting in ways like you could tell that this guy, you know, was like he needs a pat on the back and a hug. And I was stuck at home, and I have a great friend of mine. Her name is Solange. Nowadays we don't talk so much because she's scored a dream job working as an air hostess. She's going around the entire world. I see her in 2 weeks at a wedding. I'm invited to, not shooting. And, you know, I'm chatting with her, and before she did this air hostess job, she was a social worker. And I'm talking to her, and, you know, I can really talk to this woman, you know, like she's a good friend. She's known me since I started Hire. So now at this point, she knows me for, I think, 8 years. And I was telling her, like, look, I'm feeling like
like shit.
I had a lot of dark thoughts, you know, and she's like, look, since...
What do you mean, suicidal?
They were very prominent. They were very visual. At one point, I also kind of like had a plan of how I'm gonna make it look like an accident, so like people don't think
to that detail.
Yeah. So it's because it look, COVID. I couldn't see my friends. I don't DJ anymore. I crashed my bike.
COVID was very hard in general if you were like in a super good state mentally, and then COVID hit. So I can only imagine when you were already like in a dark place and then the COVID happened, how much more pressure it put on you, you know?
And although we're very aware of mental health, I think there's still not enough. So, and
with all the respect in Malta, there's no mental health.
There's a bit.
There's a bit, but it's so much lower than it should be, you know? Like the attention that it gets.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry to put you off topic, but
no, it's true,
when I heard this story, there was this woman that jumped from one of the Tigna Point buildings maybe 2-3 years ago, maybe more. I don't know exactly.
The comments,
not the comments, but the approach to that to those news was we don't say anything about it. And when I heard that that's the common theme in the you know newspapers and just not to write about it, like what the actual fuck?
It's yeah.
So you're like what? You're protecting the society, like the people in Malta, so they don't read it, so they won't do it. You know, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
you need to talk about it so people are aware and they know the signs and they see signs in people, and that's when you help them.
I never really showed any signs.
I'm sorry, I got so fired up.
It's fine. No, it's true. It's true.
And
I'm talking about it, and I'm you know, like, of course it's going to be online and anyone can see it, and I'm not afraid to say it because it's a part of my story, and there needs to be more awareness, man.
Of course.
You know, I'm not looking for pity. I'm not looking for someone to be like, oh, miskin.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's not the point. It's like these things happen, and I think if you're lucky enough to lead a life where you've never had these kinds of thoughts and you've never hit rock bottom, I mean, good for you, but there are many people that have hit rock bottom and struggle with this every day and say fuck all. You know, so
obviously different levels. Maybe you don't think about suicide. Not a lot of people go to that low, you know, but everyone has struggles, you know.
And I was lying down on the sofa and I'm having like these really deep, intimate conversations with my friend, and just like, look, you have nothing, like in terms of like what do you like to do? And I was like, well, I used to like riding my bike, but it's gone. Like DJing is impossible, and I don't afford it anyway because, mind you, this is like I have no job. Or sales have stopped for us. All the previous wages at my telecommunications job had, you know, like they stopped. So I'm getting like 900 a month. My mental state is also in a part where everything's catching up, because at that point in life, like I was intelligent enough, like I was knowledgeable enough to know that what happened growing up wasn't necessarily ideal. End of the relationship, you know, it's like everything just and I'm like here, you know, and I'm it's like well,
everything's coming together for the Big Bang.
Yes,
you know,
and the Big Bang was a plan in my brain. But then I was talking to Solange, and she's like, "Well, try and you know, like look back. It's like, what did you used to enjoy?" And I was like, "Yeah, photography." And mind you, I skipped a part in my journey. When I was 19, I was either planning to take a gap year to do a marketing A level. Or head to MCAST, and I went to MCAST to do journalism and photography, and you know, again, my main focus was journalism. At the time, I wasn't aware of like, you know, it was like these cameras and all this good stuff. And I went into a photography class, and I'm seeing the SLRs. I'm seeing like these images are amazing. You know, it's like all I have is a phone. You know. And they asked me to be able to carry on in the course, either to rent gear, which was never really available because everyone's booked it before, or to you know, buy my own camera. And I was promised help by the people around me at the time. You know, I was like, whatever you're gonna do, we're gonna help you. And then I thought, I was like, look, I need this. It's like, that's too fucking expensive. So within 3 weeks, I dropped. And I always had that kind of like this taste of photo that I never really investigated because it's kind of like a rich people thing. Again, I'm always struggling to survive, money and all that. So I'm like, yeah, photography. And she's like, well, try and investigate it, try and look at it. And I was like, well, I have a camera phone, why not? And I go onto YouTube and I start searching, and the channels of Peter McKinnon, North Borders, 70 Era, CK Creative, who was I don't think at the time he actually was doing that stuff. Daniel Schiffer, Casey Neistat, all these people started cropping up. Again, I'm not even leaving the house because COVID. And I'm just there consuming this content. I was like, it's amazing. I was like, my mind was blown. And I don't know how much of an avid follower of Peter McKinnon you are. But
I follow him from the first video, I think. I've seen most of his videos.
So Peter McKinnon has this charisma, and he's kind of like pushes you. And then there's like, I used to follow North Borders and 70 Era, and 70 Era's thing is to just shoot it.
Yeah.
The
best camera is the one that's with you.
Exactly. And then I started seeing Pierre Lambert, and I'm just like, I'm spending like my entire day sat on the sofa. I exercise in the porch and then sat on the sofa, just consuming this content. And 2 months in, and then I started seeing Gerald Undone and David Manning, and I'm learning, like 2 months in, I know if you give me a camera, I know how to use it manually. I've consumed so much content. I know what shutter speed is, I know what aperture is, I know what ISO is, I know APS to zooms and full frame and medium full. And I found purpose.
Yeah. It's funny, on the last podcast with Giuliano, I don't know if you saw the podcast.
That's the only one I haven't seen.
But I said this, and I'm gonna say it again. If you watch enough content on a subject on YouTube,
okay, I saw this part. Yes,
I think you should fucking get like a diploma of expertise in the area. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much, like whatever you do, music production, photography, videography, you can learn everything you need, and I'm sure 100% everything. Obviously it's doing the thing. Yeah. That matters a lot as well. But from theoretical point of view, you can learn everything on YouTube. And now I'm listening to you, bro. Like, YouTube kind of saved your life in a way.
Yeah.
It just got YouTube, your mind off that dark space, and you focused somewhere else. And
I was just, it's like at the time, and then I started feeling a bit better. I found a job in crypto. Essentially, I was kind of like the
mining.
No. Mining would have been fun, I think, but no. My job was kind of like, so you want to start trading in crypto, Bitcoin, and all that stuff. Here is where the crypto happens, and I'm here helping you get there. It was a very weird job because I really didn't understand at all, because with COVID and we're working at home, but I've only had a week's training, and it's like the lack of human interaction of just using Teams and Skype and whatever. And that was, it was a pretty tough job. And then I ended up leaving the job 2 months in, because I really was, I was like, what am I doing?
Not for you.
Not like, why? I can't take this. This is insane. But from the first wage I got from that job, I went and bought a Canon 250D. And a Nifty 50. And I got hopped on eBay, and I bought a very old, which I didn't know was so old, 24-70 EF lens. It was so beat up that, like, luckily a year into my, I'm using this DSLR and trying out shit and whatever, a year into this, I kind of like rest the camera a bit, not so easy, and it kind of like broke the focusing ring.
Ooh, okay. I mean, that's fixable, but...
It's fixable, but on a Sigma lens that's now, 14 years old, it's not really worth it, I think.
It was Sigma, not Canon.
It was Sigma. The
lens Canon 2470 would have been too expensive.
2470 was Sigma. Even if you touch it, you feel like that this thing is old. It's vintage,
And it was for crop, because 250D, that's a crop.
That's a crop, so it was kind of like 35 to 80, I think. And then I had the 50mm, so it's essentially a 70mm, 68mm. And, I'm just creating things that I want.
Nifty 50 is the best.
It's the most
to start with.
What? So I think that one was 100.
It still goes for around 100. You can buy it.
DF, DRF goes for 239. Because now I moved to mirrorless, and because now I'm a pro.
But I had nifty 50 with 550D.
Yeah, so you know what kind of like experience I'm talking about here. It's kind of like the camera's good enough for you to learn, but it's not good enough to do so much.
But you can do commercial work with it.
Yeah, definitely. Like in hindsight, I still have it. Currently, a friend is using it because he's learning photography. But yeah, I think it's good enough to do certain things.
It's a good starting camera for sure.
I'm not. It was amazing, and I've done shots that I love. And at the time, when I really started to want to look into portraiture, because then I used to watch Vanessa Joy, Julia Trotti, and they're all talking like how to pose models, how to take advantage of the light, how to navigate through light and whatever. I wanted to try, and I tried on my then girlfriend. I break up and get back with them, and then
you break up and then you call them up. Listen, I need a model.
No, I get back with them, and then the same shit happens again. So it took me a while to learn that people don't change. And when I was talking to her, and first I shot her, and she used to be a model, and coincidentally Solange was also a model, and she went abroad to model and whatever. And when I told Solange, like, look, I've picked up photography, and she's like, bro, that's fucking insane, and she's happy. And she's like, it's like, in order to help you grow, it's like, we can do a shoot, and I can tell you, it's like how photographers used to guide models. And for me, that was like, yes.
Yeah. And her advice helped you.
My then girlfriend. Definitely.
It was a good advice.
So like, I owe kind of like the very beginning of my journey to Solange. And my then girlfriend was like, you will not go shoot another woman. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, why? Why not? She was very jealous. And I kind of again get where she's coming from, but
yeah, come on,
I used to show her like
it's a bit immature.
Yeah,
that kind of attitude.
We eventually broke up when I felt like that there were things I wanted to do with photography that she wasn't very fond of, which was essentially just doing a portrait session, and photography started to get in full swing in my life. Like if I'm off, I'm out with my camera, I'm shooting cars, I'm doing landscape, I'm scheduling shoots with my friends, I'm creating things on their cars. Just every day, like from the moment I bought the camera till today, I cannot think of a day where I haven't held a camera.
Did you start making money straight away with the camera?
No.
Was that the
No,
plan?
it was just a hobby, and I was just watching like Hayden Pedersen as well. He's like one of the most creative photographers and videographers out there, and I just got inspired, and it's like I was always still in a bit of a like depressive state, but I found purpose. I found something I love, which is mine. And then so my last relationship commenced. We met through friends while I was photographing and whatever, and then on New Year's Eve, blah blah blah. And it was nice. It's finished because of how invested I am in this career, I think. So at this point, I'm starting, like from my sofa after I started getting good, and it was like they started allowing people to meet during COVID and whatever. I was like, I saw a video by John Branch, something photography. And it was essentially like how a hobbyist can turn his hobby into a career. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, let's watch it. I've consumed all this content. He's a new guy. Why not?
Another video.
And I was like, okay, this
makes sense.
This is interesting, And I never explicitly saw photography as a career until I saw this video. And that's where I started like, okay, so I'm still a hobbyist. I'm going to learn as much as I can. Like chances of me becoming full-time are probably zero at the time, but I'm going to try anyway. So this is all happening while I was like changing jobs from crypto, recovering from my depression, relationship to relationship, bouncing between houses. It was like I had a lot going on. There was two similar instances in my house where I had to leave for my own safety. And the second time it was quite worse, and this was 31st May 2021. So by this time, I've started shooting for a minister during the election campaign. That's what actually started like me as a pro. Well, Frank says I'm pro. If Frank says it, I'm taking it. You know,
Frank has the
he has the credentials to determine if you're pro or not.
To tell people if they're pro or not.
And I started working with this minister, and it was just, and at that point when I started working with the minister, I bought my R6. I was already saving up for an R6, and I really didn't have enough money. Like I just needed like 500 more so I can have something in the bank when I buy it. And when this opportunity came up, I was like, look, what? Fuck it. Close my eyes. I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna order the R6. So I had no money whatsoever after I got the R6. I had like maybe 300 euro in the bank. I'm renting a room in Bujubba. And I started working in gaming. So after my crypto job, I'm working in gaming. Gaming was fun. Gaming is interesting. You learn all about casino and poker and slot games. It's pretty cool. But I used to do customer care.
Okay.
And I've had a few difficult
chats. That's the most toxic department to work.
I've had a few difficult chats, but I was good at it, because I came from this telecommunications company with, customer care skills. And
I always ask people who work in iGaming, did you have that dilemma of, do I want to be in this business?
Yeah.
That like,
yes,
there's this thought process that they are taking advantage of people who have addiction in a way. A lot, like that's one way of
that's debatable, but yes,
right?
I was feeling that I was in an industry that is exploitative, in my opinion, because I think there needs to be a lot. Mind you, the company that I used to work for I think is number one in how much it helps people that are addicts, recovering addicts, or they have a lot of things in place to help these kinds of people.
Just a disclaimer: I'm not saying I think that way, but I know that's one of popular opinions about
definitely.
Gambling industry in general, right?
This company does a lot, and I still feel that it can do much, 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 much more. But then it comes a point where you're really affecting your pocket, and I think
in the end it's a choice,
And
I understand if you're addicted, but it's still a choice.
And after, so I was in this job, and I was doing photography. I started to kind of dislike it, and I was like, but I'm not really going to leave this job because the pay is insane, and it's going to tie into me having enough money to buy my own place and all this stuff. So I'm having this dilemma, right? And when I met the minister, I had just been given an opportunity to switch to the night shift. And the night shift was either 8:30 p.m. till 8 a.m. Or 10 p.m. till 9:30 a.m. 7 days in, 7 days out. And on your week in, you forget it, you're not going to do anything. And on your week out, it came to a point where I would need 3 days to recover. And then enjoy 2 days, and then the next 2 days I'm like, fuck, another week is coming. So, and that helped me that I switched to the night shift, because what I was doing, and I had actually, my last relationship, I had spoken to her about this. I was like, look, this is going to be my life for I don't know how long. Like, I'm just going to be working, because I can't quit my full time because I need to survive. And I need to dedicate time to working with the minister, because after this, like, it may actually lead into something that will make it happen. Yeah. And I was like, do you want to carry on with this relationship? And she was like, yes. And that's gonna play into. So I'm working these night shifts. She was supportive, by the way. I'm not here to bitch about her. She was an amazing girl. It's just that we had our differences as a result of this journey. I'm working 10 p.m. till essentially 10 a.m. and then I'm getting messages at 7 a.m. from the minister's PR team. Like, so today we need to be there. Today we need to do that. And after my shift, I take a coffee and I'm off to shoot. Okay. And they're like, okay, so we're there from 10 till 1, and then today we have nothing, but tomorrow we have 10 till 1, we have 2 till 4 there, and 7 till 9. And so I'm spending days shooting off the back of night shifts.
So when do you sleep?
I was maybe sleeping 1 hour a day for 6 months straight, because I started working with this minister in October, and the election was announced in February. Through this time, I'm feeling myself like my health was going down the drain again. I was gaining weight. She's
both
finding
physical and mental.
The relationship had a strain as well. And I find a post on a Facebook group that they're looking for a food photographer, and I knew that after the election, I would be essentially have nothing to shoot in terms of like work. And I messaged them, and they're like, yes, we're looking for someone. And it was for a food delivery company. But it wasn't the food delivery company directly. It was someone contracting for this company. And they're like, do you have any portfolio? And I had no portfolio on food whatsoever. So I bought a burger, like one of the nicest burgers I know. And I put it on there kind of like light like this. And I was like, I used a little bit of a reflector here and there to kind of like reduce the shadows, because at this point I spent the whole day watching food photo videos. It was like I want to do something.
Daniel Schiffer is your guy.
Daniel Schiffer is my guy. He's a big inspiration for that. That's why I'm keeping him as a reference when I grow in video. And I take some shots of this burger. I mean, they were in my living room. The light was yellow. I tried to white balance it out, but then it took away from the qualities of the burger. I wasn't so proficient in Lightroom either, so I didn't know how you can enhance saturation here and there and whatever. And I sent him the photos and I was like, I'm going to try my luck. And he calls me the next day. He's like, you're perfect for what we're looking for. He's like, I'm going to give you my lights. I'm going to show you. I'm going to join you one day. And we're going to do these photos. In the meantime, election's almost over. I have some more free time. And I'm starting to do these jobs. My girl's going nuts because it's like, we
There's
need
no
some time
to be together.
And after I found this post, I met Frank.
How did you meet him?
Frank posted on the same group that he's looking for a second shooter. And when I started watching this John Branch guy on YouTube, he shoots weddings. And I was like, I think there's nothing higher in terms of like responsibility than to shoot a wedding.
Probably.
It's like...
Unless you're shooting for like a, I don't know, Nike commercial or something.
But like in terms of the importance...
Get a bit closer.
Sorry.
To the mic, yeah.
In terms of the importance of the situation.
Yeah.
It's like
a
wedding.
You can't repeat certain shots. You can't ask them to do a first kiss again.
Yeah, well, you can, but it's not the same. It doesn't hit the same.
I mean, it's been done before.
It's been done.
But
It's been done. That's been done.
You did it?
I had to. I missed. I think I had an issue with my cameras throughout the summer, and the one I was given as a replacement wasn't very good. And then something happened to the other photographer on the wedding that he kind of missed it, or there was something in the way. I don't know. But
you don't tell the couple, can you do the first kiss again?
No,
you just say, can you kiss again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you look so nice together. You just play it,
yeah.
And they will never know that it's not the actual
don't need to
kiss,
know,
right?
They don't need to know. It's like as long as they get the photo and it's nice.
Yeah, but these things happen. I mean, human error.
And Frank posted, and I messaged him, and I rock up to Frank's apartment, and he's explaining like that he shoots weddings, and we're starting to get to know each other a bit. And I showed him the photos I had of the minister, and this particular minister would be very present in churches, and be very, so when you shoot in a church, it's Maltese churches are very hard to shoot in because the light is disgusting.
Most of
them, and it's like, well, churches, weddings, they overlap, And I showed him my photos with the minister. They were decent. Looking back, they were all right. Shit, you kind of know what you're doing. And he's like, right, okay, so I have these dates, weddings, and we're running through dates, and I'm like, I can recall the feeling. I'm losing my mind, you know. It's like he's at the point I was still working in gaming on an hour of sleep.
You're thinking how am I gonna
do
everything.
this? And most of the weddings were on my off days. And I went home and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Everything is like, I think I have enough work to switch to full time. It's like I'm very close to actually making my goal happen. You know. In the meantime, I was doing a graphic design course, which I barely use, but it's good knowledge to have. And because I keep investing, like if I find a good course, I don't care how much it is. If it's useful, of course, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna study other photographers and video. How are we on time? Are we okay?
Good. Yeah, 2 hours. No.
Shit, 2 hours.
We're
Wow.
We're good.
Okay, cool. I'm studying like whatever I can find. In between all of this, I reconnect with, well, we really didn't like each other in secondary school, but there was this guy that used to steer us both up and pit us against each other, you know, Harry Hudson. And he one day reached out to me and he's like, you want to meet? You know, I was like, go shoot some photo and whatever. And they're like, yeah, cool. So we go to Mdina, we take some photo, and that we just struck a friendship immediately. You know, he gave me he had quite a lot more content to study and to work off than I had. So he gave me a lot of things that helped me grow.
But he's not into photography that much.
He does photo, but he's a videographer. And so all of this is happening, you know, I'm starting to know other photographers. And Frank asked me, is like, can you also, like, do you do editing? How are you on Lightroom? And at that time, I had proved my skills on Lightroom because I felt like I need to grow. Like my Lightroom skills aren't the best. And I took on the job. He has a very particular editing style, which I am a big fan of. Maybe it's because I see the nice dreamy effect they have on his final edits, but it's just the style I like. It's not everyone's style. I love it though. I love the way he edits photos. It was very hard to get used to, and now that I know it, you know, it's like, apart from the fact that I used to do the job for him, it's a big win. And we were in Avantech, and I was really struggling because weddings had started. I'm still working full time, and Frank had a few times mentioned that I should quit my full time because I have enough work, and I'm not really seeing this. You know, it's like at the time my girlfriend's parents were like, "Yeah, you shouldn't quit your gaming job. Your gaming job's too good." Da da da. I mean, look, I used to work at night, so like I got a pay rise.
Yeah, but this is the usual. Most of the
Experience.
time, usual kind of position of parents in general. Just choose the safe route, you know.
And and
which not necessarily is for you.
It's not for me. For me, definitely not. And we were at Avantech. It was buying KSR6, and we were just discussing. And I don't know how I came to the realization that I actually have enough to go full time.
Yeah. So you had the R6 before?
I had the
Frank
R6
had
before.
The R6.
Yeah. Frank had the 5D Mark III and something else. And a whole host of lenses. Like he's got this insane 100mm macro lens, which makes the most amazing photos.
I shot with it once.
Yeah.
It's
But it's not the lens that makes the photos, but it helps. Because you know, it's like, disclaimer, guys. You know, it's like you can have the best camera ever, but if you don't know how to take a photo, you still suck. Go learn. And so Frank, this food photo guy, who eventually then led me to meeting Albert. And Albert was like, "Do you shoot events?" I was like, "Well, I shot for a minister." And I showed him some photos, and he started giving me a few events here and there, and then I became one of his guys that he refers to for events. So suddenly I go from sleeping an hour a day in the gaming job to working maybe three weddings most of the summer a week, and working with that's with Frank, and then working with Albert, and I'm snowballing like other things in between. And then the same, like people have hired me to do like their 20th, 25th, like silver anniversaries, you know, so just things are coming my way. And then I met more people and more work kept coming, you know. In between, the relationship finished because, well, you know, we were very different. I believe at least that we are very different people when it came to how we do things. and our goals. And I was very much focused on growing the business. I still am. Because now I'm at a point where I'm trying to learn video. I finished a diploma in marketing, and I'm trying to combine everything. Still finding my way, navigating. Like, I love photo, and I think I will always be a photographer. But like, am I still looking to do photo mainly, or am I looking to incorporate some marketing? Like, but what does video offer? You know, I'm like, I'm in that stage, and we're very different. Even her upbringing, even her family, it's like it was a directly opposite situation to mine. So that didn't help. And yeah, I
feel like you're going towards marketing agency kind of thing.
I like the idea. I like it.
You know?
But I'm not sure.
Because you're a photographer, you learn about marketing, you're interested in video, and that's already a package. You know, that could be a business.
Yeah, definitely. And apart from that,
you just need to find good people to work together, and that's it.
Exactly. And apart from that, like, I'm still looking to learn other things. For example, Frank, he's, as I said 1,000,001 times, he's amazing. Like, I think I really realized, because people have, like, you know, we talked about Peter McKinnon, we talked about Casey Neistat and all these great photographers, and then there's like people who Frank has introduced me to, Erwin Olaf, and I saw his work and I'm like, whoa, you know. But when I'm talking about inspirations, I have to say Frank is one of my inspirations. He has this shoot on Williamsburg magazine, which he did in New York, which is honestly,
I haven't seen it. I want to see it.
I'll show it to you, like, after this is all done. And he really plays it down, you know, because like when I saw them the first time, I was beyond mind blown, because I really realized I'm in the company of someone that is great. Yeah. You know, it's like next level. You know, and
what I love about Frank, because I met him as well, is he's so chill.
Yeah.
But like, you see that he's chill, but at the same time you see how focused and how professional he is.
Yes.
You know? And it's very hard to combine those two things, because when you're too chill, your professionalism might suffer, but he's those two things
it's
at
just
once.
his nature, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. It's like
I feel it's experience, man.
He does.
Experience brings that. You relax because you know what you're doing. You've done it 1,000 times. Whatever happens probably happened already to you, and you're just like in the zone, you know. Like
the third wedding I worked with Frank, it wasn't the greatest wedding, and I was panicking. I was like, because the quality of the photos and this and that, and it's like, mate. Context: Frank is Aussie, so and you know,
Aussie.
Yeah, he's oh man, I love the guy, honestly, and he's taught me a lot. And he sees how I challenge myself and how I'm always looking to grow. I soon have a day in a studio with him, because I know how to operate a studio, but I'm not confident. Like, you know, small tweaks, because it's like, I have this, and I was just bringing them together. And I kind of think I brought them together, but they don't really fit, because I'm not sure, you know, because like I can learn off YouTube, but if I have people like Frank around me, it's like, he's very happy to help me. He's very happy to teach me.
It's always good to have a mentor, especially even if you can do it remotely, that's fine. But like, if you can have a mentor and meet him in person,
and I almost see him every day.
That's the best thing.
That's the coolest part, because we struck up this cool friendship. I mean, in the past year, I felt like I personally have come a long way. I learn quick. That's what's good about me, I think. And yeah, it's a dynamic that works. You know,
I think we all learn quick when we're really interested in the subject. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
And I know that from myself, from school, from university. If I'm not interested in the thing that I need to learn, I will never learn it.
Yeah.
And when you are interested, you will find a way, you'll find all the answers, you'll find additional information, everything. Like when you get obsessed with something, same was with videography, man. Like when I got obsessed about it,
that's it. Yes, you're screwed. You're screwed, because it's like...
I was just talking to my wife the other day. I said, I think when I'm really interested in something, it's almost like you're autistic in the way. Not to offend people who
I
have
get what
autism,
you mean.
but
I get what you mean. It's like
when you're like so focused and you want to learn everything about the subject in a very short period of time normally.
Yes.
And I think it's a good obsession to have.
I think you have to be obsessed, because in this case, at least speaking for myself, I don't see myself doing anything else other than this. I'm 25, and okay, like, who knows where I'll be in 25 years, or when I retire, or whatever.
It's probably gonna change, with life,
because growth and all that. But yeah,
but it's something that you can. It's one of the professions that you can for sure do all your life, as long as you stay on top of things.
Yeah.
With all the AI stuff happening right now, and I know people who are against it, but I feel like you're just become. I mean,
I'm against it to a certain extent.
but you become irrelevant if you try to, kind of fence yourself away from that. That's where the world is going to go.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're gonna agree with it or not, that it's good or bad, but that's the next step where all the industry is going. So you might not agree with it, but at least understand it.
I think I disagree with things like ChatGPT only, because, for instance, like my Canon R5 has eye recognition and face tracking, and that's all AI, and that is useful. But when it comes to things like ChatGPT, I think we're giving, well, not our generation, but up and coming generations, we're dumbing them down, because like I remember I had to read books, I had to study, I had to, okay, I had Google, but still I had to find the references and all that. And now suddenly I just rock up to ChatGPT and be like, hey,
yeah,
done.
I agree. It's a tool.
I think it should be used in medicine only, exclusive to medicine, maybe military, but for sure, like that power should be used in medicine only.
I think. Personally, I agree. You should, when you use ChatGPT, you should already have life experience where you read books, you learned, you did essays, whatever you're asking ChatGPT to do, you should have already done yourself and had experience with that. Because if you, like what you just said, like if you give now a 10-year-old kid, do a summary of this, and he just goes to ChatGPT without ever doing it himself, that's really bad. Yeah. But I feel like when you use it as a tool and you already have a lot of life experience and you did what you asked ChatGPT to do, it's a tool for efficiency. Yeah. And you can filtrate it, and obviously
but like, as you said, it's like, rather than rocking up with zero knowledge, like, your shit, and ChatGPT is there to help. That's when it becomes helpful. Yeah. Not when, as it is at the moment, you sign up and you ask it anything and it does your job, or it just gives you information. Okay, that information is online, sure, but you have to work and verify and read, and then
I feel like it should be almost like alcohol, from like the certain age.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Because I think it's also addictive. It also can become kind of like next social media, I think. I have this belief that social media fucked up a lot of people mentally. And this, where you can just chat to it and talk to as if it's your friend, is gonna do more damage to mental health. If you don't know how to use it properly. And to know how to use it properly, you have to be a certain age.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally.
But I don't know. I'm very optimistic about AI, just because it's gonna, create more options in a way.
We should be excited about AI, but we should limit its the way it's working.
We shouldn't forget it's a tool.
Yeah.
It's not something you have to relate to, or
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah, it's.
But there's a lot of stuff I want to try. I found this list yesterday on LinkedIn. Someone posted, like 5 best AI tools for photo, 5 best for video, 5 best for
I have a few saved myself,
marketing.
So we can trade.
And there's so many that I want to try. I tried Midjourney briefly, you know, through Discord, where you generate images based on prompts that you give. But now I think it's paid. You cannot use it for free anymore. I used it when it was free,
which is fair enough.
It's good. It's good, you know. But I know already web designers that use it to kind of develop the layouts, and then they take that layout into Photoshop, you know, split it up to pieces, and then someone codes it. So I don't know. It's just a matter of opinion. Is that creativity? You gave it the prompts. It didn't do it on its own. You know, you directed it to do that certain layout.
It is a level of creativity, but it's not.
Yeah. And again, if a guy who has 20 years of experience in web design does it, I don't mind it.
Exactly,
it's just another tool for him to do his job.
But if I rock up, I'm like,
yeah. But if you if you did like web design for 6 months and you go to Midjourney and just start generating layouts, I don't know. You know, it's an option. It's not illegal. But maybe just spend more time on developing your skills, you know, and use your imagination without something that generates.
It's a disservice to yourself if you don't look to grow in a certain field, I think.
Yeah.
And it's. I mean, personally, I'm very happy with what I've achieved with photography, because I've shot some great weddings with Frank. Like, he's taken me abroad. I mean, this year I've shot Eurovision. I've worked with the Busker, who are amazing, by the way. It's like their energy is infectious.
Frank was shooting Eurovision as well?
No, it was something that I was doing. I mean, I've worked with some great artists. I've met Ira Losko, like face to face, and my dad knew her from when she was young, you know, and she was just starting her career up, because he remembers Ruby, Ira Losko, Tanisha, you know. It's like. And so personally, I feel like I've hit some big Rick Ross. I've shot Rick Ross for Sigma. It's like Rick Ross when I was younger.
Oh, the rapper guy.
Yeah. So for me, it's cool.
You used to play his tracks probably.
Yeah.
And now you're like
Purple Lamborghini, you know. And he's got another one that's with P Diddy. I forgot the name. I think P Diddy. But it's and now, you know, and I feel like you know, great thing. I've done a few great things.
I feel like photography is gonna take you places, man.
I hope
it's one of those jobs where you can do it anywhere.
I hope it does.
Travel. You can.
I've sacrificed
people.
everything to make it work.
Yeah. What's the direction you would like to go with photography too? Like, obviously you shoot weddings at the moment, but I think I asked you before actually.
I'm not sure.
Would you go to like studio shoots, like on controlled environment?
I'm not sure, because I like always having something different. But what I'm really enjoying at the minute is people like events, weddings. You know, it's a bit of a well, I wouldn't call it a dilemma. I'm pretty like set on what I want to do with that. Like, I would like to do weddings only, and you know, having Frank in my life will allow me to do that. I don't think that I'm ready to start taking on, like, putting myself out as being like exclusively a wedding photographer. And I really like working with Frank. So it's kind of like weddings in my head. It's like weddings and Frank. It's like, it doesn't happen like weddings and Frank. It doesn't. No.
I feel it's gonna get boring pretty quickly if you only do weddings.
Yeah.
Considering it's long hours as well.
That's where the marketing things come in. I want to see what I can do with marketing, because 19-year-old me would look now and be like, hey, that's what I wanted to do. And I'd be like, safe.
Save blood.
Yeah. I don't know. So it's like, the future is exciting. I still want to learn video, because I think I can do a lot with video as well. I have a good concept of video, but it's just more so getting used to the gimbal movements and actually cracking down and learning on editing. I'm a part of the MIPP's committee, so that's going to be interesting as well. I have interesting events coming this year. But
A lot of going on, man.
I'm trying to step a little back from being so busy, because being so busy will not allow me to grow and learn. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I need to grow and learn.
True.
You always need to, but at this point, I feel like there's a lot that I still need to take in before I can be like, okay, so I'm gonna dedicate 2 hours a day, or I'm gonna be like, okay, so today is the day I study and no work, or you know what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
But it's good. It's looking up, man. I think we're gonna wrap up. I mean,
Yeah.
over 2 hours, but it was very interesting, man.
Yeah.
You gave me chills. Like some parts that we talked, you know, I didn't realize a lot of things about your life, and that's
Yeah,
natural.
it's-
But if I can, you know, kind of wish you one thing, it's like that you find time for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't know. I personally, maybe since actually Ben, I think, was born, it made me realize how important time for yourself is. I used to be also like super like focused on videography, you know, constantly learning new things, etc., etc. But sometimes you just need to kind of pause and just have one day just for yourself.
Yeah.
Go buy some nice clothes, you know, have a coffee, just sit down and watch people passing by and just have coffee. I don't know for you, you know, what works, but for me, I need time to decompress, and that's very important. Staying focused on what you want to achieve, it's also very important, but sometimes you need to pause and just, you know,
That's something I'm working on.
Be in your mind and not think about work.
Definitely. And I'd like to say this before like we wrap it up. It's like if someone takes something from this, like I hope you take good things from it and things do get better. So like context, 31st May 2021, I had to leave it was the final time, and there's never going to be another occasion where this will happen to me, like leave the household I shared with my mother, which is my dad's birthday, 31st May 2022. I go pro full time. This year, that's kind of like, you know, because my dad's played a big part in this. Well, he hasn't, but he has, because he never like, it was like, here's money, go invest, you know. He just was a dad, I guess. Yeah. And this year, I'm taking him, me and my stepmom now at this point, we're taking him for his birthday to Spain. You know, it's kind of like, for me, it's like he does.
So it's not you didn't spoil the surprise.
He knows. We had to tell him because he's switching jobs, but for, you know, in case of like booking off and whatever. But yeah, I mean, for me, like the peak of all of this is giving something back to my dad, who's helped me so much, and being around the people I love. I have a very solid group of friends. They love me. I love them. And trying to give something back to them. So like, you know, if you're in a situation where you're looking around you and you're like, fuck, you know, it's like, no, man, it's hard, but keep grinding, you know, things do get better.
It always gets better.
It's surprising how things change. Like in my books, it's insane. That's up until a few years ago, I was planning something so terrible. Yeah. And now I'm here with you.
You just need
know?
to keep going. And actually, on this subject, I just remember there's a really good book. Malik, I think.
Malik, M-A-L-I-K. Mike Malik, yeah.
Yeah, you know Logan Paul?
Yeah.
The sidekick of Logan Paul.
Okay.
That's the guy.
Okay.
Because he used to be a heroin addict, and he has this book called The Fifth Vital, I think.
Okay.
And it already, I heard, because I listened to the podcast where he was talking about it, and it already saved, I don't know how many tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives, you know, because he shares his experience from like being a heroin addict and all the stuff to where he is today. But it's a really good book, I think, and whoever's like struggling, if you read that book, it helps you to put yourself in a perspective, you know, be it mental health, drug addiction, whatever, you know, because those a lot of times come hand in hand actually.
Yeah.
But man, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, man.
Thanks for sharing. Really, really good to talk to you.
All right,
cool.
You're doing something very cool with this podcast, bro. Keep it up.
I try.
You are.
Thank you.
manage.